What's up, lovers of whiskey and watchers of YouTube? I am the Malt activist, and these are my 5 bourbon whiskeys you can get for under $50. Now, I'm going to come clean and be completely transparent with you. I am not a bourbon guru. There are millions and millions of other people on YouTube and reviewers who know way more about bourbons than I do, and that is a fact. However, I think I have this one tiny redeeming quality that qualifies me to make this video, and it's the fact that I really love drinking bourbon whiskeys. So I think you can give me that. I stand by that comment. In my part of the world, I don't have access to as many bourbons as I would like to, but I think I have access to enough. And for me, when I come home from work or whatever it is, the first drink that I will actually reach for is a good bourbon. And because it rarely disappoints. I don't have to think too much about which one I'm going to drink. I know if I pour out a good bourbon, I am going to be very happy and satisfied. So I love drinking bourbon whiskeys. I love drinking rye whiskeys as well. However, I'm a bit of a minority in my group because not a lot of people drink bourbon here. The hierarchy of needs is blended Scotch, then single malts, and then I guess bourbon whiskeys, and you can tell because if you ask someone, I'm like, hey man, do you like bourbons? And they're like, dude, I hate Jack Daniels. At which point I'm like, okay, I get it. I understand where you're at. So for those of you who don't know, Jack Daniels is a Tennessee whiskey made in Tennessee, and bourbon whiskeys are made in Bourbon County in Kentucky, in the state of Kentucky. And for some reason, people don't know that, or a lot of people I know don't know that, which is weird. They think bourbon is the name of the spirit. I mean, technically it is, but it's actually bourbon whiskey. So there you go. A little bit of trivia for those of you who don't know. Now, since I drink a lot of bourbon, it's always good to find a good deal. And luckily for me, my local liquor store stocks some very decent bourbons at some very decent prices. Largely because I think it's a versatile spirit. I love having old-fashioned bourbon old-fashions, even a good whiskey sour with a nice bourbon tastes lovely, and I enjoy that a lot. So for me, bourbons work well in cocktails as well as chilling and drinking it straight or with a drop of ice in it. You know what I'm saying? So, in no particular order, here are my top 5 bourbon whiskeys that you can get for under $50. The first whiskey I'm going to talk to you about is the one that I fell in love with and that set me down the path of loving bourbons, and that is the Wild Turkey Rare Breed. Oh man, I fell in love the moment I saw that bottle. It had such an unusual shape. It had a big fat cork in it, and I remember when I opened that cork and I smelled that bottle, I was like, oh yeah, that's what the fuss is all about. And then I drank it, and that was one of my first proper bourbon drinking experiences where I sort of focused and I said, okay, I'm drinking this whiskey, and it means something, and I'm going to try it. And I did, and I instantly fell in love. It was just amazing. It has such a silky mouthfeel, and the flavors, boom! That's what I love about a good bourbon. They don't hold back on the flavors, the leather, the caramel, the dark chocolate, and the tobacco and the oak. They just boom come together and make for such a fantastic flavor profile, and I love that flavor profile. And I'm glad that the Wild Turkey Rare Breed was my first foray into bourbon drinking, because that was sublime, and it set me down the path of exploration. And I was like, I need to find more bourbon whiskeys to satisfy my craving. And so if you haven't tried it, it is, what I love about the fact is that it's readily available, it's at a good price point, and it is just absolutely delicious, my word. So yes, the Wild Turkey Rare Breed is my number one recommendation for you if you're starting out on your journey on bourbon whiskeys, and even if you're even if you're an experienced hand, you know what I'm talking about. The Wild Turkey Rare Breed. Mwah. It was literally like 2 minutes after I drank the Wild Turkey Rare Breed, I was on on this quest to find another good bottle of bourbon, and I'm glad my next bottle was the Four Roses single barrel, which was once again a fantastic dram. It reminded me very much of the Wild Turkey Rare Breed, but it had its own sort of unique flavor profile. And again, Four Roses, it's an absolutely amazing bourbon whiskey, readily available, again at a very, very good price point. So the quality of spirit that you get versus the price that you pay, I think they outperform the single malt scotches that are out there, single malt scotch whiskeys that are out there, just in terms of value for money versus the deliciousness profile that you get. In my opinion, there are more flavorful, delicious bourbons out there in this price range than there are single malt whiskeys from Scotland. Yes, a controversial statement, but I will stand by it. And I'm not an elitist, right? I don't care what I drink. I mean, I do care what I drink. I just don't turn up my nose at anything. I'm not a whiskey snob. I will drink anything under the sun if it tastes good and if I can afford it. Simple as that. And for me, bourbon whiskeys do that, especially this Four Roses single barrel. So yeah, find it, buy it, and drink it. You will not be disappointed. It is, in my opinion, a quintessential no-brainer if you're out looking for a good bourbon to drink. I'll be honest, while I'm no fan of Jim Murray, he's the one that kind of pointed me in the direction of the 1792 small batch bourbon. It was, I think, his top whiskey of the year or in his top 3, I don't remember. But it was enough to sort of pique my curiosity, and I went and I found a bottle somewhere. In fact, actually that's not true. A good friend of mine, he actually had that same small batch 1792 that won the whiskey of the year or whatever that was, and he had some left and he gave it to me, and I believe I've done a review of it as well. I will post a link somewhere up here, I guess, or here. No, here. I don't know my left from my right, but who cares? And yes, the 1792 small batch, again at a wonderful price point. Maybe not as readily available as the first 2 whiskeys that we spoke about, but again, just lovely, lovely, lovely flavors. What you'd expect from a good quality bourbon whiskey. And, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I love, what I love the most about bourbon whiskeys is the different kinds of bottles they come in. Scottish whiskey or Scotch whiskey can become pretty boring after a while, just from a visual point of view, because all the bottles, they kind of look the same. But what I love about American bourbon whiskeys is that they take pride in creating these different bottles that are so unique to them. Take any one of these whiskeys, they all have their very unique bottling, which is very cool and easier to identify on a shelf, and it gives them their own bit of uniqueness. So yeah, 1792 has a lovely looking bottle, but the important thing is that the spirit inside is even better. And if you haven't tried it, get your hands on it. My first experience with Eagle Rare was the Eagle Rare 17, which I got as part of the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. And I remember drinking it and going, whoa, what the hell? This is outstanding. This is absolutely amazing. But of course, as you know, the 17-year-old, quite expensive, fairly hard to come by, and which is why I went to, started looking around. I'm like, is there an alternative to this whiskey that I can get on a farm or regular basis? And there it was, the Eagle Rare 10. Now, let me tell you, I know it's 7 years younger than the 17, but I think for the money that you pay for it, it is the quintessential, bourbon flavor profile. Of course, made by the absolutely giant, monstrous Buffalo Trace distillery. The Eagle Rare 10 is probably the most flavorsome bourbon on my list. I really love it. From time to time I will drink the 17, but that's if my budget allows it. But for a more pocket friendly, bang for your buck, I think the Eagle Rare 10 spares no punches and is absolutely awesome. And the last but not the least, Elijah Craig Small Batch. I am such a huge fan of the Elijah Craig series. I remember my first Elijah Craig was an 18-year-old, and you know what? I think I still have it. There you go. You see that? It's an 18-year-old single barrel Elijah Craig, and this was one of the first whiskeys I ever bought. And I'm proud that I've managed to get this. It's crazy. I can't even believe I'm holding this. And I was so grateful that when I drank this whiskey, I was like, oh man, this is awesome. And then again, I was like, dude, I need to find other Elijah Craigs that are more affordable and readily available, and hence the small batch. In fact, I have this Elijah Craig small batch, but this is the barrel proof. As you can see, at 62.12% ABV. But this is a whiskey you can't have every day. You can't be sitting around during lunchtime and be like, hey, let me have a 62% ABV whiskey to chill out. No, for that you need the small batch. And again, great value for money, quintessentially bourbon. And I love everything about it. I love everything that Elijah Craig does. And I love the story. I was looking up, to see who invented bourbon whiskeys. And there is a myth that the Baptist minister, Elijah Craig, who this whiskey is named after, accidentally stored his corn whiskey in charred barrels and discovered bourbon. However, historians aren't very sure about that story, and they're like, yeah, we're not sure if this is really true. But I love a good story, and for now, let's believe that Elijah Craig was the one who accidentally discovered bourbon. Of course, there are many claims by different families who claim to be the first bourbon producers. However, I think this is a fun enough story. And the Elijah Craig is a fantastic dram as well. And again, a good price point, readily available. But more importantly, it's so delicious. The spirit is so delicious. And if you're not a bourbon drinker, I highly recommend getting any one of these whiskeys and trying them, and you'll be pleasantly surprised. And here's one more thing that I want to say, right? If you're a Scotch whiskey drinker and you turn your noses at bourbons, let me tell you something. A very large majority of whiskeys are matured in bourbon barrels. So if you stop drinking bourbons, guess what? There won't be enough barrels to mature Scotch whiskey in. So if you want to keep drinking Scotch whiskey, you better start drinking bourbons if you aren't already. You understand? We're all connected. This entire universe is all connected. And if you turn your nose up at one thing, you're going to suffer somewhere else. So yes, that is my advice. That is my advice to the elitists, to the snobs out there who say, no, we only drink single malt Scotch whiskey. Well, if you don't drink bourbon, then there'll be a time when there won't be enough casks and barrels to mature your precious single malt from Scotland. There you go. I thought that was fun. I do have some honorable mentions. I wanted to do a top 5, but I think these 3 whiskeys I drink, again, very regularly. The Woodford Reserve, I love that. The Maker's Mark 46 specifically. And the Knob Creek. Oh man, the Knob Creek. It doesn't come with an age statement anymore, I think, but I remember drinking the Knob Creek 9-year-old. Was such a good value for money bourbon. It was absolutely amazing. I think it comes without the age statement now. But again, fantastic bourbon. And again, quintessential bourbon flavors at such an amazing price point. I was like, what? This is a no-brainer. So there you have it. My personal top 5 bourbons that you can get for under $50. please, I would love if you can share in the comments below the bourbons that you recommend that are under $50 that I can try or that I can try and source. I want to expand my bourbon vocabulary, and it would be great if I could get some suggestions from you guys. So there you have it. So please like this video, because apparently you can't dislike it anymore. Well, I mean, you can dislike it, but nobody will know how many dislikes I've got. So YouTube, why are you doing that? Shit. Anyway, that's a rant for another video and doesn't belong here. So please, man, subscribe to my channel and like this video and drop a comment. Let me know what whiskeys you think I should get that are under $50, and I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of suggestions, and I'm going to make another video out of your suggestions based on that. So there you go. We made it to the end, and thank you for being a part of this video. I am the Malt Activist. You guys are awesome. Until next time, peace.